live.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
I'm here with three of my friends, Alex, Robert, and Gary.
Hi.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone.
I thought we'd do something a little different this time around with semi-Halloween costumes, just something quickly thrown together, just to kind of get the mood going. And today's topic is going to be favorite albums from 1992. And we're also going to talk about favorite Halloween music. All right. Oh, I had a little feedback there for a second. So I'm going to start off with my five choices from 1992.
I'll be right back, gentlemen.
It varies from a few different genres. Start out with Alice in Chains, Dirt. Now, when this originally came out, I really wasn't into it. It took me about a few years after it came out to kind of get into it. Because of the first album, I kind of felt like they were a little on the trendy side. So, and everybody was kind of jumping the bandwagon to get into it. The grunge sound. So I kind of stepped back a few years and then revisited about maybe the mid to late 90s to see if it held up. And in my opinion, it did. It's like good, dark sounding, heavy rock, metal. It could be one of the two. I mean, since their original singer Lane passed away, they still continued with a new guy. And I heard some of the songs, and he sounds pretty close to him without being like a copycat. And I mean, obviously, anybody that knows the band, they were all over MTV, and so they got a lot of their hits came off of this one. Rooster, So it's like it was a pretty big album for 1992 in the rock genre. Then I'm gonna switch a little bit, and I'm gonna go with Tori Amos, her debut.
Beautiful.
I got this one years ago when it came out, and then for some reason when I made my move up from my move, I lost it somewhere, so I had to get it back again. She kind of gets a little bit of like a Kate Bush vibe going to her.
True.
But she has her own thing going. It's like
A little earthier,
yeah, and this one's kind of more stripped down compared to, I guess, her later ones where she adds a little more instrumentation. But this one is just pretty much a, bare bones kind of an album.
If I might interject here, if this was 20 years ago, that would have made my list. But I'm not as big a Tori Amos fan as I was at the time. She was huge for me at that time.
Yeah. It's like this is one that I just got just a blind buy when I originally got it in 92. And I loved it ever since. Never really got around to getting the rest of her stuff because everything was coming out kind of so quickly back in the early 90s, and trying to keep up with different bands for me, it was kind of difficult. And then now I'm going to switch to a completely different thing. Engelgard, their debut album.
Yes.
I
Excellent.
got this when I saw them in 1993 when they played Los Angeles at the UCLA Royce Hall for the first Prog Fest, and that's a festival that everybody seems to be forgetting. But when I heard these guys live, I never even heard of them before, and it was I was blown away by how they sounded. And then they came back the following year in '94 to play again, and this has like a dark Scandinavian prog, but you can hear like echoes of King Crimson, Genesis, and countless other bands, and also a lot of folk sounds, like the Swedish folk sounds. I did have the original one, but again, I lost it in the move, and so I was glad I was able to get this one, and this one has a bonus track on it. The original one didn't. Now I'm not going to even begin to try to pronounce the song titles, but this is one of those few albums that I like to listen to all the way through, of a foreign language albums. I kind of almost picture the vocals as just another instrument, even though I don't understand what they're singing about, but it just has, you feel calm when the voice comes in, and you're almost like taken away to whatever fantasy land that they're talking about, or landscape that they're talking about. So it's really amazing. And then they were part of that Swedish explosion in the early 90s, along with the Flower Kings, Landberg, and Anecdoten. They were part of that movement that just kind of revived the classic 70s prog sound, but with more of a modern production, more punch to it. It's like, because I know there's some of the albums from the 70s, the pre-remastered stuff, where the drums seem to feel like they're sometimes way in the back, and there's not any punch to it. And I'll switch to another thing. Robert and I have this one, Dream Theater Images and More.
So do I.
Well, this one, when I got this, I had the first one on cassette, and then nothing for a few years, and all of a sudden this comes out, and I had it when I bought it on cassette, and I was like, well, wait a second, the vocalist sounds a little different, but it sounded a little more. It didn't sound as muddy as the first album. This one had more clear sound to it, and more. Even on the shorter songs, more of an epic feel to it.
Absolutely agree.
And of course, you had the songs that they put on MTV, like "Pull Me Under" and "Another Day," and I believe "Take the Time" was also a video. They were trying really hard, Atlantic, to put them up, but it was hard to do that when you have a band that likes to put out 10 plus minute songs. People, they don't know how to market that. And that was another. I kind of if you want to call it, this is like their second debut. It's like
the first was more of an indie, and
it had a more indie, a more
the production value is completely different.
Yeah, I had more. I also too like a more power metal-ish vibe to it, even though there were some progressive moments, but it had more power metal to it, and it had kind of like the typical '80s metal sound, you know. And then this is a big band that came back after over a decade, and they did a big tour just recently. Porcupine Tree on the Sunday of Life. This is their debut, and actually, this is all pretty much Steven Wilson on it. You know, he had some people helping him out, but this is pretty much all him. And this is a completely different sounding than his later works. This is more psychedelic, more trippy. If you know, if you partake in certain substances. um, I like this one when I first got it. You know, when it came out. Well, it came out in '92, and I got into the band around '94, '95, and I, bought up all the ones, and it's like it's one of the more. I mean, I don't see a lot of people talking about this. I mean, they seem to be talking about like In Absentia, Dead Wing, things. They talk about that, the more heavier stuff that they've done, but they never really go back and talk about where it all started from.
I love their earlier stuff. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, especially what was it? Sky Moves Sideways. That's where I got in. And then went backwards and got their stuff, and then found out that they were continuing to put out new stuff year after year. And I know nowadays some people will kind of call them overrated, but it is what it is. It's like it's however you choose to listen to it. I mean, people kind of, I don't know, they're just weird about their opinions. It's like, hey, everybody's gonna like something different, and you can't. That's the one thing you really can't knock someone for that, because my tastes are completely different than anyone else's, and it's kind of nice when you find someone that's in sync with you. You have the similar taste, but it's also kind of nice when you got someone that has different tastes, like I know my friend Alex is going to have.
Yeah, you know that.
All right, so you're up now.
Okay, so my first album, you actually beat me to, and that's Angligard's Hubris. I actually saw them at Nearfest, as well as up in LA.
Me too, twice.
Right, I saw them a couple times, and I like them for their instrumental prowess. They seem to have they took what Genesis was kind of headed towards in terms of more instrumental, a little more challenging stuff. And they took, as you said, some of King Crimson's darker material and turned it onto their own, turned it all into their own way of doing it. And I thought it was great. So my second album is going to be a band called Xaal, Xaal from France. The album is called On the Way, and actually it sticks in my head a lot. They are basically a Zool band, which means offshoot from Magma. None of the guys in the band were part of Magma, but they definitely have the Magma sound. But it's a little more melodic. They do it all in a trio set, so they got guitar synth, and I really enjoy their music quite a bit. It's unfortunate that it's not known very well. The third item is going to be an Art Zoid compilation release called Marathonaire 1 and Marathonaire 2. Let me bring up the pictures for that one. Art Zoid is a band I think that's fairly unknown, underrated. They're more on I wouldn't call them Zool. I'd call them more on the 20th century classical rock, sort of chamber rock thing. It's a bit of an acquired taste, but I really like them. They have many, many albums. They started right around 1970, and they're still, I think they're still going. Daniel Denise, if I recall, no, that he's a different band. I'm sorry, but a lot of the members are still around doing things. My next album is a fusion album, Tribal Tech Illicit. So when I was growing up, let me see if I can bring this up as well. I have it here on one of these guys. There it is. When I was growing up, I grew up listening to Weather Report, Return to Forever, Brand X, and the fusion style of things. These guys were very much in Weather Report, but they didn't have a reed player. You've probably heard of Gary Willis, really famous guitar player, I believe. And the rest of the band, they went on to do really great things. But this is their last great album, I think, and it's really quite good if you like the fusion side of it. And then my last album that I'm going to talk about is Johannes Holberg's Octave of the Holy Innocents. Helberg was a bass player for Mahavishnu, and he went on to do a lot of interesting projects. This one is with a guitar player named Buckethead, who's really quite good. And also, there's another guitar player on here. Excuse me, I've forgotten his name. He passed away fairly young, but he was definitely in the Alan Holdsworth mold of things. And then I'll discuss one more album, Devil Doll, Sacrilegium. I really like Devil Doll a lot. I got to know them from an album called The Girl Who Was Death, which is about a TV show called The Prisoner from the late 60s. But Devil Doll is, they're kind of metal with whispering vocals.
Mr. Doctor, right?
Mr. Doctor, right. And that definitely goes with the Halloween motif here.
You know, there was another artist called Devil Doll. Did you know about them?
Yes, I heard about them too.
Yeah.
And the last thing I wanted to mention was the soundtrack to Suspiria from 1977 by Goblin. That's definitely a really good Halloween thing. Of course, the movie is great too. So.
Oh, yeah.
But that's it for me.
Now to you, Robert.
Okay, well, my first album, basically, this is it. AC/DC Live. It's by far their best live album ever. It's their second album, live album. It's comprising of the best of everything by the band, with Brian Johnson on vocals. It may be blasphemy to say this, but I much prefer the vocal style of Brian Johnson to Bon Scott. AC/DC for me started in 1980 with Back in Black, because everything before that just didn't click with me at all. Brian Johnson with the Young Brothers is my favorite incarnation of AC/DC, and that album, that's the special edition to CD version. Basically, that's really an album that I just spin very often because it sounds so good. My second album that I'll talk about is one that Ron talked about earlier, Images
There you go.
and Words by Dream Theater. I'll go over it quickly. It's their second album, the first one with James Lebrie on vocals. I like Dream Theater, and I love James Lebrie on vocals. I kind of think they fit perfectly together. It's the best sound for the band. It's one of their absolutely perfect albums, with every single song is amazing and cool. Whether it's Pull Me Under, Surrounded, my favorite one, Another Day, or Take the Time, Learning to Live, just great stuff. Okay, the next three albums I'll talk about are Canadian albums.
Okay.
Let me guess, is Rush in there?
Well, the first album I'm going to talk about is Fully Completely by the Tragically Hip. Basically, it's their debut album, the first album of the band. It's a brilliant album from the band, basically vocally and in their talent, imagination, they were at the absolute apex. That album has, 100 Meridian, of course, the title track, Fully Completely, 50 Mission Cap. Everyone that's a big fan of hockey just loves that song. So that's a great album. There it is. And after that, I'm going to talk about Harvest Moon by Neil Young. It was kind of a heartwarming acoustic album. Well, it won the Juno Award for Album of the Year in Canada. It featured Linda Ronstadt on the title track. It's kind of his really kind of relaxed album in between two very energetic album. It was kind of a toned down version of Neil Young. I kind of love this album. And well, of course, finally, the last album I'm gonna talk about is the Bare Naked Ladies.
Okay.
The album is Gordon. It's their first album. It's wow. How can I describe this album? It's silly, brilliant, impressive, inventive. It was recorded at the very mythical Le Studio in Morin Heights in Quebec, where Rush recorded Permanent Waves and Moving Pictures. David Bowie and the Police and the Bee Gees recorded there also. That album, Gordon featured, several songs, including my favorite song, which was Be My Yoko Ono. It's just, kind of a whimsical, humorous version of the band. Well, all of their songs are similar to that, but, they were pretty much at their peak at that. And of course, years later, they wrote the theme to the very popular television series, The Big Bang Theory.
Oh yeah.
So pretty much, here we go. That's my 5 album list.
Just real quick, I got a picture of the album cover for Devil Doll.
Ah, fantastic.
Yeah. I had their CDs, and I was going through some tough times around 2006, and stupid me, I got rid of them. I got good money from them, but I got rid of them, and I tried looking them up again, and now crazy prices. And I know they're long out of print and everything. So it's like,
I mean, the Devil Dolls? Yeah.
all right, Gary, you're up.
Okay, so I'm going to be a little disappointing on this because I actually only came up with 2 for 1992. And not saying that it was a terrible year for music, but to me, there were not a lot of exceptional albums, just a lot of really good albums, and it's sort of all slushed together. Like I said, the Tori Amos disc that you had there, I was a huge Tori Amos fan back in the day, and if this were 20 years ago, that would have definitely made my list, but she's sort of worn a little thin on me over the years, I guess. I did get to see her live once, and that was great. But so I guess the only 2 I would pick, a return visitor of Images and Words, of course, which is just an amazing album. I mean, that album, it was, to me, that was like taking progressive rock and adding a really hard metalish element to it. And that was what I had always sort of been missing from 70s metal or 70s prog, I mean, was that sort of harder edge that they never had because it just wasn't. It's funny because a lot of prog fans don't consider Dream Theater to be prog because of that metal edge. It's like, it's funny, you can take jazz, you can take classical, you can take Indian music, you can put all that into prog rock, and they're fine with that. But throw a little heavy metal in there and they lose their minds, you know? It's I don't get it. It's obviously prog. And I think that might very well be Dream Theater's most consistent album ever. I mean, they've had some really good albums after that. And then they've had some albums that are sort of, to me, sometimes, and even with their live shows, sometimes you see amazing live shows from Dream Theater. And then other times they seem to get more about how many notes can I play in a minute versus how much emotion can I put into this. And to me, if you're missing the passion, it sort of loses something. And that album had it all, and so that was something. And then the other one I would go with is Black Sabbath Dehumanizer, which I'm a huge Sabbath fan. Other than Yes, Sabbath is my second favorite band. And I know everybody loves the Ozzy era, so do I. But when you get to Dio was amazing. And that was his return. And I don't think that album got as much attention as the other two albums from him, but I think it's heavier, I think it's darker, and I think it's a lot meatier album. It's just such a good album.
Yeah, it sounded of the times, where everything had a little harder sound to it. I remember, what was it, that one of the songs they had on a video for, I think it was TV. Oh, I can't remember. Something about God or something, and it's like,
yeah, I can't remember.
I can't remember offhand. And I just got
Computer God.
I just got the reissue one that they put out earlier in the year or last year, I think it was, and it just brought back memories. I mean, when I bought that thing back then, I was like, wow, Dio's back, but it's almost like he buffed up, made the sound a little bit. I mean, even his voice kind of sounded more.
Yeah, it was all
more angry. It's like he was coming back, 110% or something.
But I think by that point, pretty much everybody had moved on from Black Sabbath, and they didn't really get a lot of press for that. They didn't get a lot of attention, and it's such a good album.
Yeah, true. Because, Black Sabbath at this time, the Dio years, I call it, caviar Black Sabbath, because it was the most gorgeous, tasteful version of Black Sabbath. The earlier with Ozzy was really good, but, it was kind of a grungy and, earthy, Dio just had this version of Black Sabbath that was, just absolutely perfect. It sounded great live. It sounded great on vinyl. It sounded great anywhere.
Yeah. I wanted to add something. Alex kind of said it with Suspiria, but I was, because of the time of the year, on Monday it's going to be Halloween, and probably everybody's going to be watching kind of the typical Halloween movies, but I wanted to talk about some of the ones that have the really cool soundtracks.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Beyond, an Italian horror movie.
Yeah, I've been looking for that soundtrack. That's really good.
Well, this Blu-ray, it comes with a soundtrack. From Fabio Frizzi. And it's like the movie. Okay, the movie is not like, a prize-winning kind of a movie. It's how do you say? It's kind of discombobulated.
Yeah,
like
the
most
music is
like most Fulci movies, it's discombobulated. But adding the music, you kind of forget about that part. The music kind of like goes. Oh, you get into kind of like a trance.
Yeah, there's the Suspiria.
Oh yeah, and then After they Goblin did that, they did this one called Beyond Darkness.
Yeah.
Um, and again, the music is just so hypnotic. It's like just kind of draws you in. And of course, you got Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
But this one, I mean, there's some of it that was kind of dark, but then some of it was like kind of lighthearted, kind of sounding stuff, and then of course combined with the movie, Suspiria. This one, I mean, especially if you get like the newer 4K transfer, or if you're into 4Ks, colors are more vibrant. And then the last one is from Fabio Frizzi, Zombie.
Oh, yeah.
Which one is that?
Zombie.
Zombie. Oh, yeah.
Or they call it in Europe, it was called Zombie 2 because it was the unofficial sequel to Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
Because in Italy, Dawn of the Dead was called Zombie. So they just kind of, in Italy, they had this thing where they like to make unofficial sequels.
Yeah.
It's like, there was a Terminator one. Alien had one. And it's like, it was just their way to kind of cash in on big Hollywood movies. But, they were fun movies.
They were fun. They were hilarious.
Oh, yeah. And then another movie that kind of borrowed the Dawn of the Dead music was Hell of the Living Dead. Because when I first saw that movie, I mean, all of a sudden I'm listening to the soundtrack. I'm like going, this sounds so familiar. And it was basically lifted from Dawn of the Dead. I mean, Goblin gave the permission, so I think they did. But those are my for the Halloween music, and also suggestions for movies if you kind of want to go off the beaten path. You don't want to do the, how do you say, the usual suspects of, Halloween, Friday the 13th, and Nightmare on Elm Street, and Saw, and stuff like that. Kind of want to go for the more independent movies, the ones that really, I think never got their due.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just for old classic ballers.
Here's one where the movie is okay, but not great, but the soundtrack sticks in my head.
Oh yeah.
Firestarter. Yeah.
The original one from 1980 with the Tangerine Dream soundtrack.
Drew
Barrymore. And the Tangerine Dream soundtrack is, I think, fantastic.
Yeah, they did another great one in the horror genre, The Keep.
Yeah, The Keep. I just
saw
saw
movie.
There was a big thread on Facebook about The Keep because apparently the original movie was like 5 hours long. They cut a lot of it, which is why the movie seems so stuttered. When you watch it, it's not really flowing.
Mm-hmm.
But the music is pretty amazing on that one as well.
Right back, John.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
On my end, I also have a bit of Halloween music that I really enjoy. The dark and creepy style. First off is might sound weird, but the theme from Resident Evil. Marilyn Manson. Oh wow, that's kind of droning and really intense and evil. I just love it. Secondly, I kind of like the old classic, John Carpenter's Halloween theme from 1978.
I have to say, for John Carpenter, Escape from New York is my favorite soundtrack.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
I love that song too. And finally, basically anything from Univers Zero or Magma, that's pretty much great Halloween music for the average human being.
Well, the one that I also I kind of like to listen to on Halloween, actually, is the second Universe Zero,
Hmm.
especially the first sound, the first song. It's like it's almost like something evil is creeping up on you, and that's one that I like.
That's Daniel Denny's.
Yeah, I like I like that. I mean, I got into that because whenever people were on prog ears were talking about years ago about magma, so I bought the one disc from them. It didn't click with me, so I sent it back, and Greg Walker suggested Universe Zero. He said this is something that you might like, and because it's all instrumental. I said okay. So I got that, and it's like wow, like
is that from the album Hérésie?
Yeah.
Ah, yeah, great.
Especially also the song Jack the Ripper.
This is my favorite Universe Zero album.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's actually the first one I bought, and then I went backwards and got the other ones, and I've been very satisfied with that one. I mean, that band. I mean, it just kind of fit the bill perfectly for me. How I like, darker sounding music.
Yeah, they played at Nearfest.
And they also played at FMPM. And it was literally one of my absolute favorite shows of the entire FMPM era.
Yeah. There were, I think Magma has some of the Magma releases are kind of darker. Some of the Magma releases aren't quite so dark, especially when they started getting into the 80s. So it's Magma's for me for being scary is a little hit or miss, but I love all the Magma releases, of course.
Right.
I'm a big Zool fan.
Well, if you guys want to hear some of my Halloween stuff,
Sure.
One of the things I'm going to recommend, just because I'm a huge fan, is Svengoolie's Stomp, which I don't know if you guys watch the Svengoolie show, but it's sort of like, I think it's like Monster Mash, but a lot more fun. And the show's on every Saturday night on ETV, and I'm just a huge fan. So I've got to promote that one. But if you want to get into some more rock, more like serious music stuff, Noxarcana. Have you guys heard of Noxarcana? I got several of their albums here, and they're all very dark. And you see them. I've seen them in Halloween stores. It's very gothic music, but it's also very electronic and proggy. Most of it's instrumental, but there are some vocals, and it is very spooky. If you want something for a spooky party, put on some Noxarcana albums, and you'll be set. I mean, it's designed to be spooky music. It's all based on horror movies and stuff and horror books and things like that. I would also, a band I've been trying to get into, but they just haven't gelled with me yet. If you guys are familiar with Ice Nine Kills, have you heard of them?
Mm-mm.
They're a metal band, and they're a new metal band, which is probably why I'm having trouble getting into them. But all their music is based on horror movies, as far as I can tell. And it's like I look at the lyrics and I think, oh wow, this song ought to be awesome. And then I put it on and I really like the guitar and some of the other stuff, but it just doesn't quite gel for me. So I keep hoping it's going to at one point. And obviously you got things like King Diamond, which a lot of his albums are nothing but ghost story sentimental music. And you got Alice Cooper, which a lot of the stuff is pretty obviously spooky. Some of it's not, but some of it, man, like Nightmare, Welcome to My Nightmare. Come on, that album is a creep show,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of great dark sounding albums out there, perfect for this time of the year. I mean, everybody kind of goes for the more whimsical sounding music, and that's cool. They go from the Monster Mash and things like that. I mean, that's almost like, okay, that's nice. Let's let's kind of try something different. Don't get stuck in that
Right.
rut. I mean, you're going to play that at a party, of course, but if all you're going to do is doing all those the novelty songs, it's like then or the safe songs. That's the whole point of the holiday. Is this is like they always say, this is where the veil between the living and the dead is at its thinnest. So, it's supposed to be kind of on the dark side, but it's also,
fun.
It's a cycle of life. It's, the original, what Halloween is based on, Samhain, is it's the ending of the year and the beginning of the new year. So it's like, with all endings, you have a beginning. So it's like, it's however you take it. I mean, if you want it to be an evil time of the year, that's on you. But spooky is good. Spine tingling.
I was gonna say, if I might throw another one out there, have you guys heard the latest Blue Oyster Cult album, The Symbol Remains?
No, I haven't heard it, and I was just thinking of Blue Oyster Cult.
That album is amazing to me. I think it was my favorite album that year. And there's a song on there called "Tainted Blood," which is like a song where a vampire is lamenting that he gave his lover blood that was tainted and killed her. And he's remaining unable to die after she's gone, and he's got to go through eternity without her. And it is such a good song, and it fits definitely with the Halloween theme.
Oh yeah, a lot of wonderful stuff out there, and it's really cool when we can discover new things to add to our our playlist. Not kind of be stuck in the same, I guess, rut in a way. Just
right.
Yeah.
That's what I always try to look for. Like I'm going to go to see a show with a band called Arch Echo, and they're all younger guys. 30s. That's younger for me. That's half my age. But I'm always looking to something new, and one of the best ways to do that is go on Bandcamp and search tags. I search tags like Berlin School for electronic music, or fusion, or DJENT is a style I listen to, and that's it's a good way of finding new things.
Oh yeah, it's a great thing, and it's more friendly towards the bands themselves, any other site.
Right, and it's gotten me into sort of the metal side of things. Whereas, like when I was a kid, I always listened to everything that was against what everyone else was listening to. So everyone else was listening to Led Zeppelin, I was listening to ELP. Everyone else was listening to, AC/DC, and I was listening to The Nice or whatever. And that was just my way. I was perverse. I had to be against what everyone else was listening to. But in my older age, I've kind of mellowed out, and I'm starting to listen to more and more of it.
Oh yeah, the more I think we all have kind of done that, where as you're growing up, you certain age, at certain ages, you listen to certain kind of music. And then when you grow older, you go, well, I'm done with you. Now I'm going to start with this new set of music. And then, you do that until the point where you find out that, you look back and it's like, why did I stop listening to that stuff? I was evolving in my music, but still, this is something I liked, and I think that's when people kind of call that a guilty pleasure. And I don't believe in guilty pleasures anymore. I
had my guilty pleasures like the Fix and the B-52s.
I think when you get older, it ceases to be a guilty pleasure because you're just like, you know what, this is me. Take me for who I am. And when you're younger, it's like you have to be like, oh, you're cool or whatever. And you get older, and that ceases to be an issue.
I completely agree with that, especially the "you're cool" business. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It's like you sort of get over that. It's like when you're younger, you're looking for everybody's approval. And you get older, it's like, I really don't care. This is who I am. Take me or leave me. I don't really care.
And then there's funny things you find out, like the band The Fix. I'm sure everyone's heard of the Fix. The bass player, he used to play for a fusion band in the early '70s called Isotope, which
Oh, wow.
came out of the UK,
I
and
think
he played on their Deep End album. If you see, he's all over their Deep End album.
look at Stuart Copeland in Curved Air. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Or
So
Eddie Jobson in Curved Air too.
yes.
So it's interesting to see all the connections.
Pat Mastelotto was
Mhm.
in the Rembrandts, right?
oh, Mr.
Mr. That was what it was. Who was in the
Or
Rembrandts?
even-
Somebody was in the Rembrandts.
Right, or even Sting. Sting started off in a fusion band in '77.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
So
like
it's all kind of interesting. And then some of these bands like Arch Echo, they talk about what their influences are. Mahavishnu Orchestra and Weather Report. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and you look at Terry Bozzio with Missing
Yeah.
Persons. For God's sakes, that guy's one of the most amazing drummers out there.
Absolutely.
And he was in this totally pure, like, new wave pop band.
Well, it was Zappa who told him to go. He said, "Go play with this band."
Yeah.
I thought that was funny because he was playing with Zappa just before he got into that.
Well, Zappa recognized a money-making opportunity. I mean, everything you can say about Zappa, he also understood what would make money. I mean, like when he sat down and said, you know what, these warning labels on records are going to sell lots of records. So we
Right.
won,
Right. And even Fripp and Miles Davis used to do that all the time too. They'd say, "Oh yeah, this thing is going on. Go off and do that." That's why they both had such big turnovers in their bands. Miles Davis went through many, many guys, and they all started their career. And after they played with him, they went off and did what they wanted to do. So,
well, I guess we've got a lot of different favorites from 1992 from us. Some are similar, but and plus the Halloween music for this time of the year. If you're doing a Halloween party, you got a lot of different things to choose from there. If you want to, like I said earlier, if you want to go off the beaten path, got some cool stuff there. Maybe shock some of your friends and maybe hopefully don't give them heart attacks, but but like I say, it's thanks, guys. I really appreciate you turning out, and I appreciate it. And everyone out there, I'm sure there's Halloween parties out, both real and virtual going on tonight, and probably all this weekend. So it's like, have fun out there, and we'll be coming back. I'm going to do on November 26th, basically Thanksgiving weekend here in the United States. I'm going to doing favorite albums from 2002, which is 20 years ago. We're talking about 30 years, just in case. 20 years ago, I didn't want to continue beyond that because, everything is kind of new. So after 20 years, hasn't really become even though a new favorite, but still 20 years is, hopefully, get some of you guys come back for that. And next year we're going to be tackling some a couple years, 1973, 1978, 83, 88, 93, 98, and then 2003. So, we got to spread that out over the course of the 12 months. So it kind of gives people something to look forward to.
We'll be there and we'll enjoy talking about those crazy albums.
yeah,
All right.
definitely.
Well, thanks again, my friends. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Ron, for having us, and thanks, Robert and Gary. Good to see you guys again.
Good to
Fantastic.
meet you two guys.
And talk to you guys soon.
Can I just say one thing? It's my tagline always, especially prudent for today. Keep it spooky, folks.
Keep it spooky.
Excellent.